Welcome to the Stronger Leader Podcast, home of the hashtag Stronger Movement, where we explore the fascinating tapestry of human experience. I'm your host, Tony Cardello. Each episode, we'll sit down with a remarkable guest to dive into their unique journeys, from successful business leaders to individuals who have faced the darkest of times and emerged stronger, even from some of the inspiring youth of this emerging generation. We'll also cover essential topics on marriage, leadership, as well as spiritual, physical, and mental health, all in hopes to provide you with the tools and motivation to navigate your own life's challenges. Whether you're here to learn, grow, or simply be inspired, there's something for everyone. So get comfy, settle in, and join us as we embark upon this journey together. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well. Turn on the notifications so you'll know whenever we drop new content. All right, let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Stronger Leader Podcast. Your host, Tony Cardello. And the crowd goes wild. Studio audience here. I'm here with my man, Coach Kellen Laws from Liberty High School. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Excited about this. So we've found ourselves into a little niche of wrestling and coaches and, you know, just all things wrestling lately. And my wife was like, you know, there's going to be more people that watch this than just wrestlers. I'm like, I don't know that I really care if anyone else watches it.
We're good people.
Yeah, there's two types of people. There's wrestlers and those that wish they could wrestle. Anyway, so Coach, you got a really cool story here as of recently, and but I don't know you at all, and I would like to get to know you a little bit. So I've kind of used this time for that. And you know what I've really found, the blessing that's come from this podcast that I never even realized. Number one, I'm hard of hearing. I wear hearing aids. And so these microphones and this headphones, I can hear really good. It's like when we go out in public settings and stuff, Dominique like, hey, you want to go dinner with so-and-so? I'm like, I don't really know that person. I don't know their voice. I don't know their tone of their voice very well. So it's very physically exhausting for me to sit in public settings and have conversations with people that I don't know because I can't hear them very well. Even though I have my hearing aids on, I've turned them up. Everything gets loud when I turn them up, right? Forks and everything. And so I've grown, because I'm a social person. I like to get to know people, especially relational. And I've found this is a very intimate setting, right? Where you're just you and Mike, you can hear each other breathe, and you know what I mean? And I can hear good, clear conversation that's meaningful. So I've gotten a lot out of this, more than I really had ever anticipated. So it's kind of been fun. So I thought it was really cool when Coach Brewer mentioned something about having you on, you know, that your story was great. And I was like, yeah, you know, I've seen you in passing over the last several years and just never really gotten to know you. So I thought this would be a great time for that.
Perfect.
Yeah, man. So, so first things first, let's just start off. Give us a little bit of, background, like where you grew up, where you're from, who you are, what's your name, just the basics, right?
Kellen Laws. I'm from Farmington, Missouri. So about hour and 15 minutes south of St. Louis. Grew up, born and raised the entire time. Wrestled for Mark and John Krause. They were just great people. They got me to love the sport. Even whenever I really probably didn't think I wanted to do it. But it's just one of those things. They got me involved, and I think they were definitely one of the people that kind of helped molded me into the person that I am, and definitely the coach.
How old were you when you started?
8th grade.
Okay.
So, and I wrestled in you had like an 8th grade program, and we had like a youth club, but nothing crazy. Really good wrestlers like within the program, you know, they were class 3. So it'd be like lower, just the one right below what we are now at Liberty. And, kind of the up and coming, definitely had, you know, marquee names that wrestled, for the program, and went out, you know, got cut from the basketball team, went out in 8th grade. And so it was like, all right, I had a wrestling coach as a PE coach, and he said, here, you need to come wrestle. Like, you're a football player. This is what you need to do. Mm-hmm. So I think I tried it, and it was a complete disaster. I mean, you know, I actually had a conversation with one of my.
Now you're a bigger guy now, so were you a bigger kid?
I was like I was probably like a 152, 160 as a freshman, like freshman 152, sophomore, same thing.
I was 112 all the way through. So a little bitty guy.
So was Randy. Like I saw that one, you know, and like Randy, you know, and he's not a little guy anymore. So, but whenever he told me that, but you know, like in between my 8th grade and freshman year, you had like a freshman PE class that you could just kind of go ahead and get it out of the way in the summer. And both of them were the coaches for the summer school PE class. And they're like, well, you know, you need to wrestle. I'm like, it didn't go very well. You know, I'm like, I didn't win a match. Like, this was not a good fit. I just don't think this was a good idea. And they're like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I'm going to go try out for the basketball team again. And they're like, well, are you going to make it? I go, I don't know. But I mean, it's just, they're like, no, this is what you need to do. Like, it's going to make you a better football player, so on and so forth. And I stuck with it. It was still a complete disaster as a freshman, but you know, I mean, it was one of those, like, when like it finally clicked, and it clicked in the summer, and it was like, okay, this really isn't as bad. You know, I finally figured it out, and then it just kept getting better and better and better. And, you know, by the time we graduated, that was the first year that we had won like a team state title. And it was just one of those that, like, they won 2 more after we left. And it was just kind of one of those things that, and whenever people ask, like, where are you from? And you tell them you're from Farmington, and like, that's the first set of family that they think of. They think of the Krause family, and Papa Krause, which was Jim Krause, which was their dad, and then Mark and John, and John's still there. Both of them are still there, and still a part of the program and things like that. And so it's just one of those that they got me into it, and then went to college and really didn't have, I could have went and played football, but it would have been like a D3 level or NAIA. And it was just like, it wasn't a good fit. And so I knew I wanted to be a teacher, wanted to coach. And so it was just kind of one of those things. Went to school, and then got hooked up with the area high school there my junior year. And so just kind of started that. And then the coaching kind of just kept going, and then got into teaching. And then it just kind of, we just keep going from one thing to the next, and now we're in Kansas City. So
there you are. So let's back up some decades here. Let's talk about your childhood, your upbringing. Did you so you grew up in Farmington your whole life?
Yep.
Tell me, parents married?
Yep, parents are married, still married. I actually talked to my dad, or both of them, yesterday afternoon. You know, we try to call once or twice a week. And so, still married.
Are they still in Farmington?
Still in Farmington. Okay. So everybody will come back for Christmas or Thanksgiving and Christmas. They like coming to Kansas City a lot more, and kind of just getting out. And there's times that they'll just come and say, you know, can we, like, when do the kids, winter football games, winter basketball games, winter volleyball, things like that. And they try to come up, and it's really not that bad. It's about 4 or 5 hours, something like that. So it's pretty easy. Yeah. Easy trip. And, we don't get to Farmington a whole lot. They usually come here. So, yeah. Which
siblings?
No, only child. Only one. So
interesting.
Yeah. But
so, tell me about, values, like early childhood values, church.
It was kind of weird that, like, I feel like we tried a lot of different churches in Farmington, and really never really found a fit until, because it was one of those things that I think, like, my parents were pushed very hard to go to church and really didn't have a say in the matter. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those things, they let me figure it out on my own. And so, like, it was one of those, like, we tried. I remember being in elementary school, and we tried, and it was so dry. And I was just like, what are we doing here? You know, at certain places. And I'm like, this is not a good place, you know, and it's just like, I'm not having fun. Like, right. You know, and so then we finally found, there was a method, like, it was just, I think people that we were friends, like, I became friends with, and, you know, just talk to my parents, say, you know, I'd like to try, like, it was a United Methodist Church. I'm like, I would like to try to go here. Like, some of my friends go here to see what it's like. And that's just kind of what started the path. And so, because I think sometimes it is hard to find a place where you feel like you belong. 100%. And, you know, I mean, and we found that, like, my wife and I found that whenever we were married, and we were, together in kind of the different spots and the stops that we had on the road, you know, kind of our path throughout, everything. And it was just like, they let me figure it out, and, like, we're not going to force you to go anywhere. You know, this has got to be your decision. Yeah. And so I think with a lot of things, and it can be with religion, it can be with sports, you know, sometimes people get forced and kind of into this one kind of pathway. And then whenever they step back, whenever maybe they get older, then it's one of those that they're like, why did I do it? You know, like I had something so much better over here, but like I was just kind of not really pigeonholed, but just like sent down this one path. And it's like, sometimes you got to make your own path and kind of figure it out and see where you're at and what you need. And
so I have to say you readily answered that pretty handily. And so I would assume there's probably a lot of parenting and coaching and a lot of that from that, having that empowerment, you know, you probably lead and coach and parent that way as well, right?
Yeah. I think, you know, like the biggest question that I get as a wrestling coach and with the success we've had, and it's definitely with our son, and he's
so
an 8th
you're married,
grader.
and what's tell me about you're married with how many kids?
2 kids. We have a 8th grader that's at Liberty Middle, and then a 5th grader. She's at Alexander Donovan.
8th grade's a boy?
8th grade's a boy. 5th grade's a girl.
Okay. And then, and you're married, and how long you been married?
We got married in 2008. So what are we at? 17 years going on.
We were 07. So yeah,
Okay.
right there.
Yep.
Right there. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, there we go. I should have told you I was going to ask you
That's
that.
all right. It's always one of those, and I'm a math teacher.
Sorry.
It's like, all right, where are we at? Like, all right, we're at this year, you know, it's 2026, but where are we going to be at? So
I was trying to do it in blocks of 10. I can add tens pretty quick, right?
Exactly.
So you, all right. So back up, you went to college.
Yep.
You graduated high school, went to college. Did you wrestle in college?
No, played rugby for 3 years at Southeast Missouri State.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That's like taking the football element and going a little more brutal.
Yeah.
So the wrestling kind of probably,
it helped. It definitely helped. Like you didn't, like a lot of people that like we wrestled or that we played rugby with, they wrestled. And so, it was one of those that, like we had people that we kind of knew, different channels and different sets of people kind of throughout the whole process.
So I've noticed, my son's a soccer player, and I've noticed that since he's gotten more physical in wrestling and better, it's translated to soccer surprisingly enough, because he understands the hips and you know how to body,
and not afraid of contact and everything.
That's right,
exactly.
In fact, I think he wants it more.
That's good.
Like, hey, there's got to be a ball involved, dude. Okay, so college. Where'd you go to college at?
Southeast Missouri State in Cape Girardeau.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, Southeast. I was thinking Springfield, Southwest.
Yeah, everybody usually goes to Springfield.
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
no, it's the other side.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. And then, so you went there, graduated from there, got a degree, teaching degree.
Yep.
So let's back up to that. What, why teacher? Not the money.
No, it was not the money for sure. I mean, and here, me and my wife both are teachers, and we're like, what if, you know?
Yeah.
And I tell students that all the time, like, you know, I have a math degree, and like, I chose to be a teacher instead of. I knew people that we were in the same classes, and they became like an actuary or other things. I'm like, they chose the better path, you know, in some, at least the financial regard, maybe.
Right?
You know, I think there are definitely, it definitely has its perks for sure, and I think the biggest thing that I got whenever, and it was that same middle school wrestling coach that you had, like what we have here at Liberty is like an EIP program where you can go kind of job shadow or things like that. And like I did one first semester with an accountant, and I thought like I really would like that. And it was like, there's no people here. Like there's 2 or 3 people in this office, and that's really about it. And I'm like, you don't have a whole lot of conversation. You don't get to interact a whole lot. And then the second semester it was with this PE coach, and it was one of those. It was like, okay, I could do this, you know, and I was a good math student and things like that. So I'm like, maybe not be a PE teacher. That sometimes I think, man, that would have been the way to go, especially talking to Dustin some of those days.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really not so bad, but no. And then it was just like, okay, I think this is kind of the path that I want to go in. And again, like really never saw myself as a wrestling coach, more thought like, go with kind of the football path and that sort of route. But it's just one of those that, you know, wrestling chose me. I didn't, you know, sometimes, you know, I don't think I chose it, and I think it just chose me. And it's kind of, you know, to kind of go along with some of the faith that, you know, that I'm just going to go down the path that it kind of leads me. And that's just kind of where, you know, where we're at. So
life, I always think that God has a good sense of humor. I think oftentimes he's patting me on my head going, oh, that was cute. You had a good idea there.
You had a good plan.
Yeah, that was a cute idea. But here, I'm going to have you do this instead.
I think the one thing that I always, you know, kind of related to was, if you wanted to make God laugh, just have a plan,
Yeah,
because he's,
that's the truth.
he's like, no, I got you. I'll figure this out. Like you think you're in control, but you're really not.
Yeah. Sometimes he's shaking his head at me. Is that the best idea you had today? Like, let me help you out here, kid.
Right.
Thank God that
Exactly.
term is like so real to me.
Right.
Thank God.
Yes. Exactly.
So, okay. So, when did you make the move to Kansas City? How'd that transition happen?
So
when you got out of college and started teaching, did you go back to the Farmington area or St. Louis area?
I did. So there was kind of it's always one of those, and me and my mom we talk about it a lot, because it was definitely a blessing in disguise.
What'd your parents do growing up?
So they worked like, there was a factory that was probably not even a half mile from our house. It was called Builtwell. They were like a distributor for like clothing for like what would be like JCPenney's and stuff like that, Lands' End stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they both worked, like my dad worked maintenance the entire time, and he basically took care of the entire building. And then, whenever like they closed, my mom ended up working, like she was on the floor, and then ended up working in the office. And then whenever like it just closed down, and they found, I want to say it probably was while I was in high school. It's like, it's just been so long. My dad ended up working at a place called Cap America, which was in Fredericktown. And he was just over the entire building. And then, my mom was a receptionist. She worked with like titles and things like that for a place called Tag Truck Center. And so,
so it sounds like you grew up all American.
Yep,
good,
exactly.
Good core.
Yeah, they were
hardworking, blue collar
Yep.
people, just good people. Had some God in your life.
Exactly.
Just small town. How? Tell me the size of Farmington.
There was probably at the time whenever I was there, I was growing up, it was probably like 11, 12,000 people. Like it's maybe now it might be like 16, 18,000 something. I mean, nothing crazy by any means.
Yeah. So about the size of Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, okay. So you went to college, and then you got a job teaching right out of college?
Kind of.
Okay.
So I did with how my, like kind of the path, whenever I had a sit down meeting with like a counselor, and I was trying to get done like at a certain point. And so I did my student teaching, and I did it in even like a town that had 300. It was a building of 6 through 12, and there were 300 kids total. So 50 kids per class.
Wow.
And so I started doing that. Teacher, she quit probably, I don't know, about September. Like she was not what she was planning on doing. I think she was from St. Louis area, and it was just like, and I remember like the principal came to me, and like my advisor was there, and he's like, hey, we need to talk. And so we're just kind of walking down the hallway, and I jokingly say, I'm like, what happened? She quit? And he was like, what did you hear? And I was like, oh, like I was just joking. And he was an old, and it was kind of funny. He was an old wrestling guy and principal in Jackson, Missouri, and he had come through and things like that, and he became a principal, and then he was like, he's a superintendent of Cape Public Schools now, and it's kind of funny. And so I was like, oh, I'm like, I was just joking.
Don't know nothing.
Like, I don't know anything. She didn't say anything. And so they were like, we want to hire you and just kind of go. And so like, whenever that all happened, I had one class that I needed to like finish. And so I thought that, or kind of like from the conversations that we had, there was a class that I could take through correspondence through the University of Iowa that was going to transfer, and then took everything and then come back, and it's like, oh wait, you didn't graduate, like you didn't have all the classes. I'm like, excuse me, and I'm like, here we are. And like, I had accepted a job at Farmington and was going to go back and coach. And that had kind of started that process. So then like the semester had already started, like how everything had worked like through the summer, and the semester had started, and I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? So I went back for like a semester and took this one class, and here I am, I'm coaching wrestling. I'm driving an hour and 15 minutes every like Monday, Wednesday, Friday to take this class. And then, so it just kind of worked out, and like, it didn't go well with the higher ups within the district, and, had a conversation with, our head coaches with Mark and John Krause, and they were like, you're probably not going to get a job, back here. I'm like, I get it. Like I screwed up, or the way that this all worked out. And then, so finished, graduated, got all the classes and everything taken care of. And then kind of towards end of semester, that was whenever I actually met my wife. Just totally random through random friends. I was in St. Louis at the same time that she was in St. Louis.
Where's she from?
She's from Kearney.
Okay.
And so she went to Truman State and played volleyball. And her friend, that one of her best friends, she was visiting her, on this weekend. And I was going up just to go, like it was 22nd, 23rd birthday, something like that. Just going up, we went to a Cardinals game and then just kind of happened to kind of cross paths. And like 2 days prior to that, I'd went and interviewed, in Springfield, Missouri at Parkview High School, and ended up getting, like, they offered me the job. Here, you can come be the head wrestling coach. And, you know, that year finished coaching wrestling at Farmington, and we had three state champs. We finished fifth of all, and we really didn't have a great year. Like we thought we were going to finish in the trophies. We had 3 kids win a state title, and that was it. And we finished fifth, and it was just like, we just did not have a good, we didn't have a good showing. And yet, like, we had a heavyweight that had actually torn his ACL first home game, football game, of that season. He was going to go play Division I football, and he was probably a 215 pounder. And we ended up making him a heavyweight. He ended up coming back after he had knee surgery. He had knee surgery in October. He rehabbed, and that was kind of the project of like, here, you're just going to go wrestle with him every single day. And then he ended up winning a state title.
Oh, wow.
And it was, that was one of the, I still have like a picture of like him jumping into my arms, and like, it's still one of the best.
Yeah.
And he lives in, it's one of those things that comes full circle. He coached with Brewer at Belton.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just like, and it's just one of those things. It's so crazy kind of how things, everybody gets connected,
sure.
And so, but like did that, and then took the job in Springfield, and she graduated from Truman and ended up she was a GA at Southwest Baptist to kind of finish her master's. And so we were kind of in the same area, and it was just one of those things like, all right, we start coaching, or we're both coaching, and we're both young, and it's like we kind of started dating. And at that point, like for me especially, and even her, like people were starting to get married. We knew people that getting married. Like that's how we dated.
Yeah.
And so like we dated through weddings. And so like I tell somebody, like we went to weddings, and that's how we dated. They're like, what are you talking? I'm like, it was perfect. I'm like, the meal was free. Yeah. Like the drinks were free. Like it was perfect for a guy just out of college, or, a young couple. I'm like,
smart.
Yeah. And they can figure, we can figure out real quick. Do we like the other one's friends? Like, can we handle being around them? And so I bet we went to probably between, the summer and like the fall with it, especially in that first year, definitely like 7 or 8 weddings.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. Like, and especially whenever we were going back and forth between, I had a house in Farmington because I thought that's where I was going to be. And like, we moved to Springfield, and I actually moved with, one of like our assistants. We both applied for a job down at, in Rogersville that they were starting their program. And the goal was kind of he was like, I just want to go be an assistant, he's like, and he ended up getting the head coaching job. And then, the coach or the school in Springfield called and said, hey, we heard you applied. Like, would you be interested in this? And so that just kind of started the whole like wrestling and, kind of getting into there. So
back up for a moment. What was your your high school wrestling career like? Did you win state, qualify?
Nope. No, so whenever we went, we had like, I was kind of in and out a little bit, varsity lineup, that sort of thing. And then like we were pretty good, and then ended up having, when my senior year, and just kind of in and out of the lineup, and then lost my spot to sophomore, and he was at 215, and there was just really, it was one of those we had, and I will never forget the conversation that I had, like with the Krauses, and they're like, at any point you could have just said, I'm done and I quit and I'm done with this sport. But like, it was one of those things, I'm like, I'd stuck it out and I'd been through it this long, like, and it's just one of those things, like I got beat, and that's just how it is. And it's like, and we're one of those, it was one of those programs. It was like, we're trying to win a state title, and we did. And it was like, and so it was kind of one of those, I think that's probably whenever I figured out that I probably was going to be a better coach, because it was then like, I'm just going to go work out. Like we had a state champ at like from like 152 and up, like we didn't have a hole. And so it was one of those, we either had a state champ or a state medalist. And it's like, in any other program, at that time, I probably could have went and, been at least a qualifier or anything or something like that. It's like, my job is now to just go and just be the best practice partner and just go,
it's pretty cool,
and have fun with your friends and still just go and compete and be with those people, because those are still the friendships and the things that, the people that we see the entire time and that are still like the guy that he's the head coach at a town that's about 20 minutes away. And, it's always great to see, it's like, but it's not like it's one of those, like there's, oh man, he took my spot. It's like, no, it's like, this is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And
right.
so like, that's just
made the best man win.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. That's how it works.
Yeah. James Krause was on here, earlier today. And I said, what made you choose fighting? He said, because man, it is the most primitive answer to everything. Like, hey, I'm tougher than you, I'm faster than you, I'm stronger than you, I'm big. Let's fight. Like, it's a good point. Yeah. I mean, it settles it, settles it, right?
Yeah.
So
there were days that like we had like in our wrestling room, it was like you had a chain link fence that had a makeshift like wrestling like pads, like just gymnastics pads on them, and that was really the football like storage area. There were multiple times that people like helmets were flying off of this, because it didn't matter. Like there was never, you didn't stop when you were against the wall or you were against the chain link or whatever.
100%.
Like it was just like things would just go, and there would be times like, all right, we need to go pick that up and we need to put it back in there. Like what happened? Like, well, we had it with our heavyweight, or like this first, our group of 3 or 4 just became like we used the entire room, and it was just like that's how it worked.
Absolutely. So. I love it. Okay, so that's good. That's interesting. That the element of being a team player in an individual sport like that it's big. It's important. I don't think a lot of people really understand how much wrestling is a team sport.
Yeah.
It's individual accountability for like if we're gonna win, you got to do your job, right? And it's so tough to teach that, when we're in my world, my secular business world, we have salespeople that are no more than just wrestlers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in a different weight class, each salesperson, like we're trying to hit a store goal, but you got to do your job.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You have to you got to cut weight, and you got to make, you have to do,
you got to do all the hard things.
You got to do, you got to do your part. And I think that carries on into life, certainly. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to wrestling, because it teaches you that independent element of accountability, but also makes you part of something bigger, especially if you got a good team.
Exactly.
Right?
And and there are so many, and even with us, with the boys or even the girls program, it's like, you're trying to find kids to fit in certain certain spots in the lineup. And sometimes it just doesn't work. And it's like, and you got to have that hard conversation that if you can get them to understand that it's going to be okay. Like, I mean, everybody wants to be a 4-time state champ and never lose in high school or whatever, but I mean, realistically, that's not feasible. I mean, those people are far and few between, and it's just a matter of, can you go be a good teammate, and can you help somebody, even if you're not the guy or the girl, can you go and just be the best person? I think we, a few years ago, and it's been longer than that, probably about 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, we had a thing where it was like, it's a Bible verse, it's iron sharpens iron, and that's what you've got to do. Like if you're not in that role, you got to be the best dang JV kid or practice partner or teammate, whatever you can, just so you can, and you are a part of it, regardless of, you may not be the one standing on top of the medal stand, but it's like you help certain people get there. And and so I think
I'm as you're talking about this, I'm kind of thinking, and maybe I'm partial, and I know they're out there, but you get a lot of parents that talk shit on football coaches and basketball coaches, and because there's a lot of subjectivity of who they want to play, right? Oh, that's his coach's favorite player, he wants to play him. Like who who's wrestling on varsity? It's the guy that won in wrestling.
Exactly. And like you see it every day. It's like, you see the kids that are just beating the brakes off of somebody, and it's like, and we have this conversation. We have it every year. We had just had our parent meeting. It was like, and it was the comment of, we see everything every day. And, and it's one of those that you may win a match, but it may be one of those, it may be a 1 out of 10 or a 1 out of 100 thing. It's one of those, like, who is consistently there every single time. And whenever, the dust settles, it's like, this is what you have. These are your 14 people that you have in your lineup, and this is who you're going to kind of go to war with, or go to fight with. So
trust the process, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So, take me through the timeline. You're in Springfield teaching, coaching. Mm-hmm. How do we end up in Kansas City?
Well,
the wife always wins. If there's two people from out of town, they always end up back in the wife's hometown.
And we definitely had that conversation, but like, and it was her stops. The funniest, like, the whole, and I'm gonna kind of say one, like, that first year in Springfield, like, we went in 2005. We had 3 kids win a state title at Farmington. We finished 5th in the state. And I walk in that first year, and we had 8 kids total. and I'm still, like, I'm coaching football, and I'm the offensive line coach. And then and then we're still going into wrestling season. So we had no wrestling room. We're rolling out mats every single day. And I have 8 kids, and she's, Megan's coaching at SBU, and volleyball season's done, and she's there, and she's just like, oh my, what's happening? And we had maybe 2 or 3 kids that kind of knew what was going on and had wrestled. And so, like, I remember first year head coach, we go to the district tournament, and that time there was only 3 classes. And here I am with 8 kids, 2 that could belong at wrestling. And we go to a district that was just a meat grinder. And that was when, like, Don Bradley was at Blue Springs, and he was wrestling. And then you had all these kids that at, like, Fort Zumwalt, like, you went to Jeff City, and it was the toughest district in the state of Missouri. And here we are with our 7 or 8 kids. And it's like, oh God, this is going to be so embarrassing. It's just bad. And you still wrestled. We were done at wrestling at our district tournament at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. Last kid was done. And I'm just like, the hardest 2 phone calls that I had to make were to my dad. And then whenever Mark Krause called me, and, like, I'm literally in tears. Like, I'm, here I am, maybe not a grown man just yet, but here I'm like, what did I do? Like, what was I thinking? And, and it was one of those that you figured it, like, we went, you were kind of you weren't on the top of the mountain, but you were pretty darn close. Like, you were on the ascent, and then it's like, you made this decision, and it's like, what are we thinking? Like, that was definitely the hardest conversation that I had. And it wasn't like anybody was disappointed in me, but it was just like, it was real. Yeah. And so, we kind of went and, coached the next year, and just got kids better. And I think, we got kids into, like, the blood round, and it was like, okay,
did you feel at that moment that year, were you trying to internalize, like you failed? Like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah. And it was just like, more, did I just make a bad decision, or, but it's, and, I called my girlfriend at the time, and I called Megan, and I said, and Marcus Hayne was wrestling at University of Missouri, and he had wrestled for Farmington. He was, like, the class right behind ours after we graduated. And I called him, I said, I need to come up. And we were in Jeff City. I'm like, I'm driving to Columbia. And he's like, shouldn't you be districts? I go, we're not going to talk about that right now. And so,
yes, but I'm not.
Yes, but we aren't. He's like, okay. I said, I just need to watch some good wrestling right now. And so, like, I went to practice. I went and watched them practice, and they wrestled. Like, that was when Kale was still at Iowa State, and, like, they had a duel, and, like, I just got to be a fan and just forget about everything that happened. And then I was like, all right, I'm coming home. And, like, then I just drove back home, and was like, all right, that's what I needed. But no, I don't think it was just, like, disappointed. I think you just want it for kids, and you just got to figure out how to get them there. And so, and that's, the next year, people got better, and it's one of those, it's a process. I think we already said, trust the process once. And, and that's what it is. It's just trying to figure out that process. And some kids are going to go along the process a little faster, a little slower, and that's okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
But like in that kind of middle, my wife, Megan got a job, or there was a job at Missouri S&T in Rolla, and, she ended up getting the volleyball job about February, about the time of district state, somewhere in there. And she's like, I have to, she had to go. And so like, and like that, we got to Rolla for 4 years. I thought I was going to be an assistant.
Were you guys living together at the time?
No, she lived in Bolivar, and then I lived in Springfield. So just kind of going back and forth between the two, as far as what season it was in, and just kind of supporting each other there. A lot of nights where I felt like we ate at Chili's a heck of a lot in Springfield. I don't know. And now we will not go there forever. Like, and our kids love it. We're like, no, we're not sitting on that grenade. So,
been there.
But, so she went there, and it was like, all right, we, try to find a job, and kind of had connections, and thought I was going to go be an assistant in Waynesville. And then it was one of those that was coming back through. Actually had to go for like my great grandmother's funeral, and we were coming back through, and coach at Rolla had just resigned, and they were like, we need to get you in before you accept this job so you can take this position. And was there for 4 years. I think the best finish we had was 7th. And then, had a kid my first year there, and it was, he was a 4 seed coming out of districts, and like still to this day, the best coaching I had ever done in match. And it was really, I was just spitting out as much crap as I could throw, and just hope that it hit the wall. Right. And, we got thrown, his name was Mason Ridenauer. He got thrown to his back. We're in the state semifinals, and against a kid we had lost to the week before, and looked at him. I said, it's fine. You're down 5-0. You're going to get out. You're going to get to your feet. You're going to take him down. And then we're only going to be down here. And just like, I'm just trying to visualize
Speaking
to get,
life,
just try to get it to happen. And then we, it just kind of starts, and I'm like, okay. And then we ended up winning, and like, here we are, a 4 seed, and like probably never should have been there, make the state finals. And I'm just like, holy crap. Yeah. And, and my assistant's just patting me on the back, and I looked at him, and I said, what made you? He's like, I don't know. I just, what you told me, I just thought it was going to happen. I was like, I'm glad somebody did. I'm like, here I am. I'm just pulling everything out of my, like every pocket, all out of like every scenario.
You can do it.
I
think you can.
And by God, you did.
Yeah, right. That's great. That's great. Well, hey, the power of speaking life into a situation, right? There you go.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you end up, all right. So Liberty, was Liberty the stop?
No, it was not. Right. We got, living here. Yes. But, so,
what was the career
we had our son, and
so how'd you back up? How'd you get the call to Kansas? Like what was that transition? One of you guys take a job somewhere up here?
We both kind of took a job kind of at the same time.
So maybe it was a family decision that you guys were going to move back closer
we knew,
to home.
Yeah. Whenever Kyler was born, we knew that we wanted to move closer to one set of family. So we were going to move like towards Farmington, St. Louis area, because we knew we had to be close to family somehow. And so, Kansas City just made more sense, because like we knew we could kind of plant our flags somewhere, and then it was a lot easier to find a job somewhere and drive, Kansas City, 30 minutes is nothing.
30 minutes is everywhere.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And where like in Farmington, 30 minutes doesn't even get you to St. Louis yet. You're still kind of nowhere. And like, even my parents kind of have figured that like 30 minutes is nothing. Like, yeah, it really is not that bad, And so, we knew kind of what was happening. She got a head coaching job at Kearney, and then, I got a head assistant job at Blue Springs South, and worked there. And so it was like, all right, where are we going to live? So we figured out Kansas.
Assistant coach, wrestling
yep,
coach?
Okay. Head assistant there. And so, and it was a good fit, teaching wise, coaching wise for the most part, for a while. And then it just kind of but like we lived in Liberty because it was like, okay, we need to figure someplace out to where we'll both drive, and like I'll drive to Blue Springs, she'll drive to Kearney, and then we just kind of meet whenever, back in the middle, whenever we come home and things like that. And then 4 years went along. There was the head coaching job was at, Liberty came open. And so I was like, well, I'm going to apply for it. Like I live here. This is what, all knowing that Dustin was going to apply for this job. And so, because at that time, like there was a job at Lee Summit West that was open, and there was a job here at Liberty, and it was one of those, and we're sitting in
Did you have a relationship with Dustin?
No, like I just in passing, like we knew of each other. I think one of those things, but never really like knew him. Like we had acquaintances, like exactly. Yeah. Justin Cole that wrestled at Oak Park. They were really good friends. Like I was calling him and like, what's, do you know what he's going to do? Is he going to go like at least Summit West? I'm trying to figure out a job, and sort of thing, because I had already decided like I was done coaching at Blue Springs South and I just needed to find something.
Did you teach math at Blue Springs as well?
I did.
Okay.
Yep. So, and I just need to find a more positive place at that point in my life. And, as far as coaching wise. And so go sit in the interview. And like one of the things that, and it's kind of funny because you've had Dustin, you've had Randy and Earl on here. And so it's, like, you get to the end of the interview and our athletic director, Jason Cale, makes a comment and he's like, do you have any questions for me? I go, yeah. I said, if I come in here and I'm the head coach, what's the first thing that I've got to do? And it's one of those, and it's kind of like college football where it's the wild, wild west where kids just go wherever. He's like, we have kids that show up as 8th graders and they're a part of our district. And then as freshmen, they just don't make it into the program. And I was like, so you need to lock down the border. And he's like, essentially, yes. I'm like, okay, go home. And Megan asked me, she goes, so how'd it go? I go, oh, Dustin's getting the job. And I go, she goes, how do you know? And we kind of went through it and I said, well, here was the question, this is what it was. And she goes, are you okay with that? I'm like, yeah. I said, once he accepts the job, I'm calling to see if he needs an assistant.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it worked. And, and he took a chance on me and, and just, he had him and Randy and Earl, and they had the relationship and victory. And it's like, okay, we can, we can house this thing out of high school and everything. And it's just like, and all these people are like, who is this guy? And it's one of those. And I think you had to, or for me personally, it was like, okay, I'm going to prove that like I belong here and like I can contribute somehow, some way. And that was just one of those things. Like, and it's stuck for the last 10, now we're going on 11 years. So
your humility is charming.
Thank you.
So, it is, it's repeating itself in several of your stories. And it's like you're okay. You're the guy by not being the guy.
Right.
And, that's admirable. Like a lot of people,
Thank you.
This is an egotistical sport, big time, right? It's alpha, a lot of alpha dogs running around. A lot of them.
Yeah.
For you to take a second role in a sense and hold it in, listen, you're a Christian. So doing everything as if you're working for the Lord, right?
Right.
That's really the truth and everything. Right. And so it's like you are treating that second position like it's the only position, like it's the most important,
right?
Because it is to you, right?
Yeah.
It's your role, and that's so. That's a hugely admirable trait that I think that people, if you're watching this, take heed to that. Like, I don't care if you're a janitor. Like if you think you have the most entry level position that's seemingly insignificant. JFK went on a tour of NASA. Now, this is a pretty cool story. And he was just introducing himself to people as he's passing by in the hall, and he asked the janitor. He said, "Hey, what are you doing? I'm President Kennedy. What's your job here?" He said, "Sir, I'm here to put a man on the moon." And that story is like that guy was so committed to the mission that sweeping the floors he thought was a big part of putting a man on the moon. And if you can dial into that level of engagement in your role, then you can be I don't want to say more tolerant, but somewhat, you can definitely be content.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I struggle with that. I have because I'm a high performing, like, all top. Everything's got to be the best, the best, the best, the
Yeah.
best. And, you know, I have this performance motivation that is, that can be unhealthy, right? If you don't, because I always think being content means being complacent, and it's not.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
at all.
Agreed.
Yeah. You can be content and be happy and experience joy, but want better. It's
Yeah.
okay to always want better.
Exactly.
But be okay with being where you are. And so, you know, I picked up on that. I think it's a really cool quality, man.
Thanks.
I think
Appreciate
a lot
it.
of people hopefully can learn from that.
Yeah.
And so, all right. So now you got the assistant role as assistant boys coach.
Right.
Right. All right. So tell me what that initial part looks like. And then
So-
obviously you're going to have to tell me how you end up, but nobody sticks. You know how you said wrestling chose me?
Right.
Girls wrestling had to choose you.
No,
Nobody puts
exactly.
their hand
Oh,
up.
exactly.
Here, let me have a bunch of hormonal teenage girls that are also combat
Right.
driven.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah. So tell me all that. How you know?
I think it was just
walk me
one
through
of
that career.
you know, like that was that first year, and
Did you and
Yeah.
Dustin start together same year?
yes, we did.
Okay.
And I didn't start teaching there because I didn't get Blue Springs wouldn't let me out of my contract, so I had a job offered to me to actually teach at Liberty North. And like, here I am, you know, having conversations with Dustin, and like, they want me to teach here. He's like, it'll be okay. You can still coach here and see, you know. And so we were kind
conflict of interest,
right? Yeah. I'm like, so
Am I a
all
Blue
right,
Jay or an Eagle?
we'll figure this out. And he's like, it'll be okay. And I'm like, all right. But then Blue Springs didn't let me out of my contract, and so there was like, you have to pay. Like in the contract, it says, you know, if anything after June 1st. It's $10,000. I'm like, here, we're both teachers. Like,
Yeah. Do you know what you paid me?
we don't have $10,000, you know, to do this. And it's like, and so like, it just kind of was one of those, like, no, they're not going to let it. So I'm like, he's like, it's okay. We'll work it out. And it was nice because we were on an early schedule. So like, school was out at 2:30. Liberty didn't get out until 3:15. So here I would, like in the winter, I would leave school, drive home, and go straight to practice, and then was still getting out. You know, I mean, it was the same idea as if like I was getting home at the same time. So my wife and son,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, son was infant still, or, you know, toddler. And so like, he didn't know. And so it was one of those, you know, that it just kind of worked. And so, and then
So you
got
only
the
did
job
that for a year?
Yeah. Did that for a year.
Okay.
And, you know, and it's one of those things, you know, you have these people, and like, you hated leaving these people, but it's like, look, this is the right path, like, that you should be on. And that was
So you
one
never end up teaching at North?
Nope, never
Okay,
did.
okay.
Nope. My wife coached there, but never taught there.
Okay.
So, but then get a teaching job, and, you know, go in on the interview, and actually interview in the same, like a Friday and then a Saturday. Interviewed at Liberty, and then interviewed at Liberty North like the next day. And for both schools had an opening, and, you know, it was definitely comfortable and things like that. And so finally got a teaching job, and then it was normal. And then, you know, I mean, everybody was on the same schedule. My wife was still coaching in Kearney or teaching and coaching in Kearney. And then like, she finally got to Liberty. And then it was just one of those that, everybody was on the same schedule. The kids were on the same schedule. We were, you know, there was no driving. It was just like, here we are, you know,
Starting to hit a stride
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. It's all working.
Yeah,
So-
that's cool. That's cool. What grade math do you teach?
I have like an AP pre-calculus class, and then right now I have like an algebra 2. So I have mostly like sophomores to juniors. I have a few seniors. But
Any of my girls been through there yet?
no, none of yours.
Anyela or
No,
Melania?
she's next door. So
Okay.
she's next door to Mrs. Yates right
Got
now.
it,
So,
got it.
but yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, so you're coaching boys at Liberty,
Yep.
assistant, and how do you end up with these girls? And don't get me wrong, I love these girls.
Oh, I do
They're
too.
They're
Yes.
amazing. But
And it's, you know, and I think like what,
you weren't begging for that role.
no, and really never like, and it was open for a long time. I feel like this is year 7, I think, of the program. And, you know, this is year 11 as far as wrestling and, you know, being at Liberty, and kind of going back to like, as being the assistant, it's like, you know, what made it work. It was just one of those, I never asked Dustin, like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm just going to take this off of your plate. So then like, you can focus on other things. And I think that's what makes
So were the girls and the boys all part of the same program initially? Like there was no delineation really between
No, we didn't have any girls. Like no girls started.
Because
Even-
now you're only with the girls essentially, right?
Yeah. And then I think the only time like really it seems like that I get to be around the boys, and we're kind of working it out this year to make it a little bit easier, is really like a more like state tournament and just being there to be another person, you know, another coach, just so we make sure we have coverage with how the state tournament works now. And there was definitely like certain relationships that you'd already had, like whenever, you know, I was an assistant. And so just kind of saw that through. And so, whereas it kind of fit. And then, you know, cause we have our own schedule and things like that. But,
so what year did you take over and just fully dedicate?
So this is year 3.
Okay.
So, what would that be? This is 25, 26. So 23, 24, season. And like the breeding family that we have with both sets of, twins, that they, you know, the older ones were already kind of in it. And that was like, we went through kind of the COVID year. Like we won our first state title as a boys, like when COVID killed everything. And like we got our state tournament in. And I remember that, you know, basketball teams ended like on that semifinal. Like they didn't get to, you know, some of those schools didn't get to go to their state final. And we were already, we're already done. And then the next year, I want to say would have been the first year of the older set of twins in Jaden and Julia. And so like me and Dustin were still, like we had girls coaches, but like we were still involved, and everybody's always been together. Like it's never been where we delineate from like, this is the girls and this is the boys. Like there are times there's some overlap and some mixture, and sometimes there's not. And so, and I think that's what makes everything so great. And that's what makes the program so great, is everybody's supporting everybody. Mm-hmm. It's not just like, you know, there are some that, you know, we get the question a lot, like, do your girls practice with your boys? Like, yeah. Like, why wouldn't they? Like, They don't have to wrestle with each other, but they at least need to be a part of it, especially with the program that we have. Like, you know, I mean, winning, you know, and winning is contagious. And
Very much so, yeah.
If you can see what everybody's doing, and it's like, oh, you know, this is what it really is.
Well, and James Krause was just on here earlier, and he said that very same thing about emulating, you know. So when you're just among some, you know, you light up the dogs, you catch the fleas.
Yeah.
Same difference on the positive side too. If you're around a bunch of good stuff,
oh yeah,
you can't help but probably be good, right?
Exactly.
That's good. So tell me, did you guys win state this year?
We got second with the girls. Yeah. And so like when kind of how it all worked to kind of go back to your other question, like it was one of those that, you know, like we've said, it chose me, and it was just like, what, you know, this is like me and Dustin kind of have, and Randy was big. He's like, you need to take over. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I really want to take over the girls program. Like, I just don't know. That's not what I ever thought, you know, of how this was going to work. And so we kind of sat down, and it was like, okay, is this what needs to happen? And like, obviously it was one of those that first year, you know, we kind of sat down, me and Dustin did, and he was like, if, you know, this is one way to get you a head coach, like get you paid kind of what you deserve. He's like, cause you do a lot of the other things already. And it's like, now we can, and we shared still, you know, there were still things that and that was probably, you know, where we still did everything on the boys' side and back and forth and just kind of going, and like, it was, my wife probably hated it just because it was it felt like it was every single weekend that if I wasn't going with the girls, then we were going with the boys somewhere. Yeah. And so, you know, they had gotten third the year before. That first year, we got fourth, and
so we've gotten better every year last 3 years.
Well, no, they were third whenever I was still with the boys, and then we got fourth the first year.
Okay.
And it was one of those, like, what are we thinking? Because we went in and, you know, we had, that was the last year we had all 4 breeding sisters together. So we had the 2 that were seniors and the 2 that were sophomores, and Lily breeding had won it the year before. And like, we had 4 state medals. We had our heavyweight, Alexis Stinson, that, you know, that's a senior this year now as well. And so it's like, okay, we could be pretty darn good. Like, we have a shot here to maybe win it. I don't, you know, it's just, you're trying to do the math and everything. And then we wrestle lights out. All 5 girls, we wrestle lights out the first round. Second round hits into the quarterfinals, and that is one of the worst rounds I've ever had as a coach in my life. You know, and you know, Lily's a defending state champ, and she's supposed to win it, and she got put to her back, and it was just like, oh crap, what's going? And then it was just kind of a snowball effect, and then but Sandy won, and Dustin's in the back, and he's trying to like play, you know, run block and like keep her from seeing what's happening, because it's one of those, like, that's the one thing I learned real quick with girls. Like, it's just an emotional roller coaster. Guys, you know, if guys, you know, we're at the state tournament or you're in a tournament and somebody loses, it's like, oh, it's okay. It's like, whatever, you know, like they're here for them, where and definitely sisters are totally different, because they're all in it together, you know, and they want to see
it's a whole nother layer.
Exactly. It will, and it was, and you know, and we lose 4 out of the 5 quarterfinal matches. And I'm in the tunnel. I'm like, well, they won a state title, you know, and you know, and it's one of those, like, you definitely want it for you personally, but you want those kids to see it for them. And you want the one, you know, you wanted, like for Lily, you wanted her to, you know, you thought, oh, she could be a 4-time state champion.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we're standing in the back, and you know, you just felt like you just got punched right in the gut. And I'm standing there with Jacob Beck and Ryan Moyer. They're two like Jacob's the head coach at Park Hill, and then Moyer wrestled at Park Hill, and now he's a head coach at Seckman. And we're just talking, and he said, you guys had a rough round. I'm like, yeah, you're telling me. I'm like, I've been kicked, I've been punched, everything, you know. And here Lily Breeden is, and she's getting ready to go out for her wrestle back round, and she looks up at the scoreboard. She goes, hey, we're in 8th. And I'm like, yeah, we are. Yeah. We're in 8th right now. And they're just dying laughing. And like, I'm like, they could care less right now. Like, it was, yes, exactly. It was just like, it's really going to be okay. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, let's see what happens. And so, and we ended up finishing 4th, and that was like the best, you know, we just kept getting, like, it just kept getting going and going and going. And we got 4th, and it was like, okay, you know, we were done. And it was like, we walk up there, and I think that was, you know, year for the boys, like, me and Dustin walk up, and that was probably one of our worst finals rounds that we had ever had. I think and this is going to sound very egotistical as far as, we only had 3 state champs, you know. and we're walking up the steps, and here I'm carrying a 4th place trophy. Dustin's carrying a 1st place trophy. You know, it was like our 5th one, and you know, and we're just both like totally dejected. And you know, and we walk up there, and Randy looks at us, and he goes, "You smile. You just want us." Like, it's like, we wrestled like crap. Like, it was bad. Like, it was just terrible, you know. And like, that's how we felt right then. It's like, this was not fun. Like, we did not have fun here. It was just like, and you know, because I think on the boys' side, we lost 5 matches, and all of them were within like either overtime or last 10 to 15 seconds. It was just like, it was it just left us soured. And then the girls had what, you know, had happened to them. And then just like, man, this was not good, you know? And so, but then, you know, the next year, and we kind of, you know, we turned it around, we got 2nd, and it was one of those that, you know, whenever it all happened, like we took 4 girls, we had 3 win it, and we had 1 go 1 and 2. And like, the one that went 1 and 2, if she doesn't win a match, we finish 5th, and nothing, like, we don't even talk about having a state trophy. And then, you know, so it really was, for taking 4 girls, it was really truly a team effort, you know, even though that's what we took. And, you know, we had 3 state champs, and our heavyweights going into her finals match, and a girl that she wrestles, I bet she's wrestled this girl from Green Valley about 10 to 15 times over her career. And so, and for the most part, we kind of had her number, and there would be times you never knew. And so, like, we went in, and again, doing the math in my head, I'm like, okay, if we win, we finish 4th, and we tie for 4th with Belton. And so if we can pin her, then we're going to jump all the way to 2nd place. And like, she has no clue. Like, we're just looking for her to win. And like, she pins her, and she comes off, and I'm like, you just got us 2nd place. And she's like, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, do you think I was going to do this? I said, should I have? She goes, no. And I'm like, okay, just making sure we're on the same page here. Like, this is not how this should work.
Yeah, you act like you're irrational.
Right.
Or like you're emotionally irrational.
Yeah, this is not how we should work this for sure. So,
that's good.
And it's one of the, I made the comment to somebody, and I really have embraced the girls' role, and I've really enjoyed it like a lot more than I ever thought I would. And I think part of it was, boys want to know your resume, and girls just want to know that you care. And so, and I made that comment to somebody this week, and like, as far as what makes it, and not that we don't care because we do, we care with every kid that comes through our program, regardless of what they've done or where they've been or whatever, like, we care about them. But I think that's the one thing that girls really want. They just want to know that you're in their corner and you're there to support them. And that's it. Like, and you can hug them up after, and like, tell them, like, in a perfectly like coached, like, that you love them and you will do anything for them. And the boys know that as well. But at the same time, they want to know kind of, where did you come from? What did you do?
I know exactly what you're talking about in a different setting. And because I'm a girl dad, obviously. I got 2 girls and a son, and my 2 girls are oldest, and everybody was like, are you, because we got pregnant and found out it was going to be a boy. Like, oh, you're so excited you're finally getting your boy. I'm like, I don't know yet. I don't know how I feel. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, cool. Dad having a boy. Yeah, that's fun. But man, I'm a relational person, and I love my daughters.
Yeah.
There's just nothing like, girls, you're right, girl. And I love to love, right?
Yes.
So, and girls just love to be loved on, man.
Right.
It's just, I could see where that could be really fulfilling, because it is. That's really, they care about what matters, really.
Exactly.
In the end of the day.
Right, exactly.
Right?
They may not tell you right then and there, but they do. They just want to know that just sometimes a dad hug can go a long way. Huge. And just to kind of hold them and just make sure that, like, my daughter's 10, going to be 11 next. She'll tell you in 7 days, Yeah. Exactly. She knows exactly when it is. And so, but like
13 hours, 7 minutes, and 1 second.
And she just, but there's sometimes she just wants, like, she just needs her dad. She just needs you to just, she wants a hug. She's like, I need a hug. I'm like, all right, I'll give you a hug. I'm like, anytime. Like, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. My girls are now they're teens. So, Dad, I want to talk to you. All right. Am I just listening, or am I giving advice?
Right.
I got to know, because dads want to give advice, right?
Exactly.
Just listen. All right. Got it.
Okay.
All right. So, cool. So great, man. Awesome career coaching. That sounds awesome. So we got to get to, man, you had some darkness. So I'll back up now for a moment. Seemingly you had a really good life growing up. Any major darkness, anything that you had to, go through it all?
Not really as like, and not as like as a youth or anything. Like, both parents were always around, like grandparents were always around, like, and so probably not until I was an adult. You had, like, you always have little landmines whenever you're growing up. That's just a part of life. Mm-hmm. But not until we were in Rolla, and not until we were married, that was whenever, like, we probably were at our, like, darkest point. And
marriage struggles,
a little bit. So, and I know I can talk about this because, like, this is the one thing, like, we are completely open with our students, with everything. My wife had gotten pregnant, and probably 8-10 weeks in, she miscarried. And, like, we were living in Rolla, but, like, she worked for the University of Missouri system. So we drove to Columbia, like, and went to women's and children's there. And she woke up one morning, it's like, something's not right. And so we went to, like, they were supposed to go on a trip. They had a travel trip somewhere that weekend, and we ended up, going up, and we ended up, we had scheduled everything, like, there's no heartbeat and everything. And it was just like, here we are, 25, 26 years old. It's like, we were ready. We thought, okay, we planned, and it's one of those things, like, you try to plan for everything. Like, we tried to plan the pregnancy for when it wasn't during volleyball season, when it wasn't during, and we were naive to think that like, we were in control. And so, like, we were supposed to be due in April, and here it is, September, I want to say, like, 22nd, 23rd, somewhere in there. And, like, she miscarried, and it's like, what do we do? And it's just, and it was just rough. 'Cause, like, and I'm a fixer. Like, I'm one that, like, I want to be able to fix everything. And then not that people need fixing, but if something's wrong, I want to try to help get it. Yeah. And that's just kind of the person that I am. And like, I couldn't fix it. And so it was just trying to figure out my role as a husband and like, how can I support her whenever I don't even know, like this is just completely brand new. And, like it was tough. And, you know, we came up to Kansas City and I think that's probably the biggest reason why we're here is because like the church we got married in, the pastor that married us, is still like, and I will say like, he's probably, he's one of the greatest friends that I have is because, you know, we sat in on a meeting and it's like, okay, we need to talk about this. Like we need to figure out how like we can build our marriage or, you know, just get our marriage back. And it wasn't like we were just very distant and, you know, just because we didn't know what to do. Like we were just completely lost and we really didn't have a church in Rolla at the time that we could just of people. We had an inner circle that we could go to, but again, like no, we were the first ones to have kids or try to have kids. And so we got up here and, the one thing that, our pastor said, he's like, it's okay to question. Like, it's okay to ask, why did this happen? And, you know, and it's one of those, it's like, oh, like we can do that. Like, you know, and that was just like, we both kind of stepped back and it was like, it's okay. You know, cause you're kind of taught like, don't question God, you know, just let it happen, you know, and we did let it happen, but it was just like, we still, you're human. You want to know why certain things happen the way that they do for whatever reason. And so, you know, we got that and it was like, okay, we can do this. Like we're in this together, you know, and it's like, we're going to make this work. And it's going to, you know, it's like, we're not going to quit on each other. That was never like ever in the thought process, but it's like, okay, how can we get back to where we were whenever it was, you know, it was like that honeymoon period, you know, and that sort of thing. And so,
so it looks like you guys have figured out how to thrive, not just survive.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, it was one of those like, and here we were like, and it was one of those where it was like, okay, we can't plan this. Like, let's just let it happen. Like, and we'll figure it out, you know?
So I want to back up on this because there's an element of this that I know, to be true. So, because my wife and I we're big supporters of marriage and, you know, we went through a ton of darkness and so we've come out of it. But, you know, I think that for the lesson there that people need to understand that are listening to this and watching this is that, you guys figured out that just existing wasn't okay. It wasn't enough. Right. And you guys didn't necessarily have to experience like complete and utter devastation to realize that. In fact, you headed that off because it could have got there.
Yeah, it could have been really bad and just been like, okay.
No question. So understanding that it's not okay to just be married. We're not intended. That unity is not designed like that. It's designed for us to thrive.
Right.
And when you guys realized that element wasn't there, you pressed in and looked for answers, which is, I think it's awesome. So, I think that's a major thing that needs to be noted there because that, and listen, you didn't just say, hey, you know what, we got to get along better. You went to some meetings, you talked to some people. I mean, it's work. People, they compare a lot of times, like especially spouse relationships that are going through struggles. They're like, well, look at Tony and Dominique. I'm like, I don't know if you want to compare to us because it was hours and hours and hours and hours of counseling and classes. And I mean, listen, there's a way better path to thriving in a marriage than the one we took, you know, way better. So we had to repair a lot of stuff. You know, it doesn't need to be broke to fix.
Exactly.
You know? So that's awesome. Okay. So the reason I was asking that, cause I know what came, you know, you ended up with a major diagnosis. When did that happen? And walk me through that bombshell. What were the symptoms? What made that come a thing to where you figured all that out?
So I had just a knee, like from wear and tear of wrestling and things like that. And had to get my knee scoped. And so had a surgery plan just to go get it, arthroscopic surgery, just to shave a meniscus and that sort of just kind of clean some things up. And, that was probably somewhere September's like time frame. And, you know, went in, had surgery. They went in and just shaved everything, kind of cleaned it up. And I woke up the next day and kind of went and like it was in my armpit and it was just, it was really tender and sore. And
The next day after surgery?
Next day after, like nothing had ever shown or anything. And so it was definitely a blessing in disguise. And that was one thing I told the orthopedic, like, like if we wouldn't have done this, who knows? Like if
100%.
and so like, I remember asking Megan, I said, did I come out of like recovery and like, did I lift my arm? Like, did I hit my arm? Like, was I just an idiot and like, hit my arm like on the bed rail and because it was swollen and it hurts? She goes, no, they didn't say anything, I said, all right. And so it was kind of there and, had October hit and like how insurance works and, like with your, like
deductible.
Well, and like have like, that was whenever we could go and do, like well visits and things like that. And so met with my just regular family doctor and, said, this is what I've got. And this is what he's like, well, it's probably just some sort of infection from your surgery. And so I was like, all right. And he's like, let's have an ultrasound done, of what, and we'll just do that. And we're sitting, here I am sitting there and my arms like behind my head and she's doing the ultrasound tech's doing it. And, I said, so is it just an infection? And she goes, no. She goes, there's definitely something there. And it's something with the lymph node. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so, and like really didn't think anything about it, you know?
Didn't at that time.
No, I'm like that hadn't really hit. And then I said, all right, we're going to recommend you to go see a surgeon and, cause we'll probably need to get this removed. And I'm like, all right.
Thinking maybe a cyst.
Yeah. And so, something, nothing crazy. And, so go meet with a surgeon and he's like, this is what I think. And here we are. Like, we're just like, it's October and like, what do we, can we wait until Christmas? Or he's like, well, it's been this long. He's like, you probably just need to go ahead and get it out. And then just kind of figure out what he's like, cause I'm kind of worried about it. I'm like, all right, and so schedule surgery and they, cause it measured on the ultrasound, here I am like looking back at the screen and it said like 5.5 centimeters. And I'm like, that's pretty dang big,
good size,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good size. Yeah. And so like surgeon goes and he's like, so we go and have surgery.
No biopsies or anything initially?
Nope. Nothing. Nothing.
Just went straight in and take it out.
Went straight in. And like I'd had cancer in 2021. It was melanoma. And it was in my arm and it was just a spot and went to like kind of the same thing, went to a well visit and said, hey, I got this spot. And we ended up going to, dermatologist and they scooped it and said, this is what it is. And it's an aggressive type of melanoma. And but we went in and it was one of those, like they lasered it and I have just a divot in my, my arm. And they were like, it wasn't below, like it had to be below a millimeter, or it had to be over a millimeter in thickness. And they're like, it was 0.7 millimeters. I'm like, that's not, it wasn't very, it was very small already. And so I'm like, all right. So never really thought anything of it. And so, and then just this kind of, you kind of figure it out as you go sort of thing. And so, go meet with the surgeon. He's like, this is what I want to do. And so we had it taken out and then come back and like, I'm stitched up and everything. And he's like, it was the size of like a golf ball that just had like lymph nodes around, like it was melon. And so I was like, all right. And then they took it off to labs and then they called and they said, you have like, and here I am, I'm at school and like my room like has a little, like it has 2 entrances. So it's the main entrance to the hallway and then like into like a flex area. And so I take it and here I am, I'm the only one in this room. And they're like, it came back and the surgeon called, he's like, it came back as melanoma. It's in your lymph node. So, you need to schedule like with an oncologist. And I'm like, oh, like so many, like, oh crap, and so to say it nicely.
So basically you have cancer.
Yeah. You have cancer. And it's like, okay. And so I'm like, so I immediately go down, like I go talk to my wife and say, hey, this is what, the oncologist called, this is what's going on. She's like, all right. So we set up a meeting with the oncologist and, here we are sitting there and like, I was fine, like nothing, like I never really knew like until I got into the office, like it was never really a thing. Like I just knew like they took it out, whatever they took out, and it was just kind of, it was what it was. Yeah. And, and just kind of not really just letting myself go down a dark hole and, and just trying to stay positive as much as I could and really just not even thinking about it. And then we get there and it's just the two of us, and we're sitting in the doctor's office, and then it's like, oh crap, it's real. Like, this is like what's going to happen. Like, and that's what I told her. I said, I didn't have any like issues. Like, I didn't have any worry, any doubt, nothing until I left school and we drove to North Kansas City Hospital, and we got in there, and then it's like, okay, what's going to happen? What is this person, what is this guy going to tell me? And we're in there, and he's like, it is melanoma in lymph, in your lymph nodes. So like, then I'm thinking like, do I have melanoma? Do I have lymphoma? Like, what do I, it's like, what, and we still have that conversation. Like, what is this? And, it was like, he goes through it, and he's like, you have stage 3 cancer. And like, once I heard that, it was just like, I'm like, okay, he didn't say 4.
Right.
And that's,
right.
and I'm,
right.
and I'm
so
like,
saying there's a chance.
right, exactly.
Right.
And like, he goes, you have stage 3 cancer. I'm like, and like, and not that there was relief, but it was like, okay, he didn't say 4. And he's like, well, they think they got everything. And like, and then I'm kind of picking back up the conversation, and I'm like, okay. And so, and he's like, do you have any questions? I'm like, and I'm still trying to process all of this. And I go, no, I think I'm good. Right. I'm like,
there's no expiration.
Right.
date.
Yeah. I'm like,
right.
you didn't say, I'm like, it's not stage 4. And he's like, no. And I'm like, he goes stage 3. And they kind of went through what that means. And I'm like, okay, and then
did you ever ask point blank, is this treatable and curable?
No, cause they went right into it. I'm like, so do I like, and then I'm like, am I going to have to do chemo? And like, I've known people that have, and in our family and like within our tight circle, especially on Megan's side of the family, like cancer's like, it's been a death sentence. Like we lost my father-in-law, about 4 or 5 years ago. We've lost her grandma. We lost, both grandmas and things like that. And it's just like,
so she's got to be a wreck.
Yeah. Yeah. And and it's just one of those that like, we'd lost my father-in-law, and I had one of the best people to be around my kids and things like that. And it was just one of those, it was definitely hard. It's like, oh crap, like, now what? And so like our oncologist made the comment, he's like, we won't do chemo. I'm like, okay. And so it's going to be immunotherapy because of what you have. Like we don't want to like strip your body down of everything. Like we want to build it up, and we want it just to go fight anything that we think is there. And that's what we're going to do. And I'm like, okay, and so we're sitting there, and like they leave, or he leaves, and like we're just kind of sitting there and waiting for the nurse practitioner to come in, and and kind of set up like how are we going to do our treatments and things like that. And like me and Megan are just like, for getting a cancer diagnosis, like we're as relieved as we all could, we could be. Right. And it was just like, okay, it's going to be fine. And like, I don't remember if it was right there in the office but at some point, like I looked at her and I said, here's the deal. I'm like, I'm not going to worry about this, so you can't worry about this.
Yeah.
And so and really just kind of letting it go, and like, and kind of unknowing without saying,
you press into your faith
right,
more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just without saying like, we're going to let God control this. I mean, we said it that's kind of how I think it got said, It's like, it does us no good to worry because we're not the one in control. And so like, you can't do that. And she looks at me like, you're an idiot. Yeah. Like,
okay.
You're right. Yeah. You get the eyes like, okay, that's going to happen. Yeah. And so, but I mean, it really is. It's one of those that, and now like, it was just kind of a journey. And so like, they're like, we can, and I think we went on a Tuesday, and like, they wanted to start on a Tuesday. I'm like, can I, and with how like we have the early schedule, on Wednesdays, and like, what's the latest I can go? And they're like, well, probably 2:00. And I'm like, okay, so I can get there, and here I am like, can we do it on a Wednesday instead? So
you're incredible.
So I'm like, I really don't want to take days off of school to do this. And so, and like all the people were great. I went to my principal, like, okay, this is what's going on. Cause he was like, why have you been gone? So we're kind of keep certain people in the loop, and really not everybody in the loop. And so, like not until after like my students knew that like I was gone, they didn't really know why I was gone and what was going on. And then like having to come back and tell them like, look, this is what's happening. Like, this is what's going on. And I've been diagnosed with cancer. I'm going to have to go through treatments for the next year. And, and there was I forgot, one of my students was just like, and so then I had parents reach out that like of kids that I had, and they were like, so like, you're handling this very well. I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it. Like I've just got to put my faith in my doctors and, in God, and, just that somebody else is going to take care of it. Right. Exactly. Right. Somebody else is going to take care of this. And, we'll face whatever we will, and, we got it like where it was supposed to be every 3 weeks. And then they said, if you want to try to do like a double dose and do it every 6, we can try that and see if, are your kidneys still functioning? Is everything within the medicine and what's supposed to happen? Is it working? And so as long as it was, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And, it's like going to Dustin and saying, okay, I'm going to be going on this Wednesday, it's like, you do whatever you got to do. Yeah. And that's how a lot of people work. It's like, I'm going to miss this meeting, with school. It's like, I'm going to miss this meeting. You just go take care of whatever you need to. And, and it's one of those that like not many people knew. And we tried, I told all of my students just so they knew, like, whenever I was going to be gone, if I had to go to a doctor's, like, this is what's happening.
How'd the girls take it on the team?
We were kind of like, really they did great. Like, it was like, this is what it is.
Cause you obviously went through it during wrestling season,
yes,
right? I mean,
the entire season. Yeah. It was like my first, like we had, cause like Earl came and ran practice. I'm like, I need you to run practice, because I had a tube coming out like with all the drainage and everything. And I officiate high school football on Friday nights. And so I was within a crew, and like I missed our week 10 game because I still had the tube in, and I just had surgery the Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it was before. And here I'm like, they're telling you to measure everything. I'm like, I need to go do this football game on this Friday. And so I'm like, I really want to go work a Friday night and just forget about everything. Yeah. And so, I remember going to the doctor, and they took the stitches and the tube out and everything. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to my football game. Like, I'm out of here. like, when can you, I'm like, can I be here at 3:30? Yeah. Like, yes, we'll do it. I'm like, do I get this thing out of here? And they're like, yeah, we'll take it out. I'm like, perfect. And so, cause I'm kept calling my doctor and like, hey, it's below this. He's like, I really need this in for a week. I'm like, then I really need you to schedule this on a Friday so I can go do what I normally do. And so, but yeah, it was one of those, like the girls did great. The families were like, what do you need? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I need anything, like just support.
Stay normal.
Yeah. Just
you
be
need
supportive.
Normalcy in your life at that point. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just be supportive. And, I mean, if you're the praying type, then pray, I'm like, I will never turn that down. That's what I try to tell people. Like, they're like, can I pray for him? Like every day.
Yeah.
Like, please do. Cause I probably needed it before this was even diagnosed.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Right. So do you think that during this time, I mean, it sounds like you've already had a relationship with Christ. Did you draw closer?
Yeah, I think, and it was, cause it was one of those things that like the same minister, like the church that we got married in, like that was definitely a big reason why we came back, and that we knew, like when we were in Springfield, when we were in Raleigh, we never really had a place to go like for church, and it was just hard. But we knew we always had a place here. And so I think that was kind of why the draw was always to get back to Kansas City. To kind of come back to that part of it was because we knew we had a place that we were comfortable, that if we could be at, and it was, it wasn't judgy. It was, we had a guy that we go talk to anytime, and we still do. And, and it was one of those, like Dave was as our minister, and he was very, we haven't told the kids yet. Like we didn't want to tell the kids until we knew everything. Yeah. Because
they're going to have questions.
Oh, I mean, they are worriers to a T, and they will, that is one thing that for sure, especially our son, like he would worry until the cows come home. And so it's like, all right, dad had surgery. He's been to the doctor. He really they had to have surgery. So this is why this tube's coming out of, your arm and your body and everything, until we knew exactly what the diagnosis was and what the plan was. Like, here's everything, and, just kind of for them, and it's just protecting them a little bit, and just one of those, because they're at that time, they were 12 and 9. So it's like figuring out how we can just get by. And, so like, we're asking for prayers in church, and he's like, he's having surgery, but we're not really telling people what's going on until we knew exactly what, because then, for me personally, it was probably like, then I don't have to answer as many questions, because, and especially questions that I don't have the answer for, until somebody says, this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to work, and then go, then that's what we'll do. We'll go. And then, it just kind of was one of those that, we went through, the spring and everything. And I would always have people that would come and ask questions, and students would ask, like, how's it going and things, like there were some that, like, students that I had, like they were standing there sobbing, and I'm like, it's going to be okay. Right. It's like, how can you say that? I'm like, I don't know that it is, but I'm going to trust that everyth's going to be fine.
Yeah. One way or the other, it's going to be fine.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's just the perspective and the outlook that I just had to have, that I had. And, and I think it was good for, some students to see that they were like, he's really okay with this. I'm like, I'm not okay with it, but right. I'm like, but I'm going to figure out how to deal with it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
your power and the proof of the presence of God is not in the absence of attack, but the ability of the believer to withstand it. So your ability to sit in that pocket and accept things for what they are is high. So, well, let me ask you, so through this, did any major changes and maybe how you look at life, function, whatever? I mean, you seem to operate like really, you're a high level person already. So I don't know how much, mental or emotional change transpired from this, but did anything, did you look at life through a little bit different lens at all?
I mean, I think just kind of knowing like the history that we went through, like on my wife's side, and we lost my father-in-law way too soon. Yeah. And that was the biggest gut punch that, for even anything that we've had, like it was like, that was her rock. And so then, and that was my brother-in-law, like that was who, and we ref football together. Yeah. And so, like he got me on the crew that I'm on. And like, then it was like, I don't have like the guy that we went and like we had our 20 minutes of windshield time. I'm just shooting the breeze and just on our way and going and having a good time and just enjoying that time. Is like, okay, so, losing him and kind of losing him to cancer, and like, and it was quick, it was quick. And, it was like within a week, and, it was like he was sick, and then we lost it, and then we just kind of went. And so it was one of those, just trying to process that, and then just kind of, okay, and really just kind of making sure to be there for our kids. And so just because like they had lost, especially my son, like he had lost his guy. Yeah. And like, that was his guy. And so, and like we all had, and, it was just one of those that, just trying to figure out how to just kind of keep it in perspective, because you never know what tomorrow, you never know walking across the street what's going to happen.
So I would say you already knew, because of that experience, life's precious, and then you experiencing this probably just put a little bow on that.
Oh heck,
right?
Yeah.
Hug them a little longer, right? Every day.
Exactly.
It's good stuff, man. Well, dude, this is great. I'm glad we got to do this and got to know you, share your story a little bit. So you, I want to hear the end part of this. So you go through the battle for a year. Yep. At what point, because there is nothing, you don't have to surgically remove, you already did that, and they're not looking for clean edges in your, so what point do we say you're clear? Like what was how do you figure that out?
So like we went, and, whenever, the last one, and I'm sitting there, and, it was right before, like the week before wrestling season started. And so like my wife said, or we kind of had the conversation. So what does this mean? Like, well, you ring the bell and you do all the things, and it's like, okay, how is this going to work? And so like, just kind of asked and said, yeah, this is what you're going to get to do. Like, you're going to have a huge group, you're going to have your fan club. Then, and the ladies that were, in that treatment office, and, you see people, and like, and I think that was probably the biggest perspective for me. Like, here I am, I'm 43 years old and, fairly young, fairly in shape, and, there's some people in there that, that are in their 70s or 80s and, and you don't know their story,
Right.
but like, you're kind of in there with the same people and same nurses. And like, you get in there and you walk in. And one of the things that was hard, like going through everything, like, I don't know how many times whenever I had like surgery to remove like cancer, like to remove the lymph node and everything, I bet I got stuck. Like they couldn't find a vein to save their life, cause you can't drink or eat so I was so dang dehydrated.
Yeah.
Like they're just like trying to stick me any place. And then they finally, it's like, so I'd walk in like right here, this is the spot. This is a good one. You can just go here every time. And like, there's one, and she's like, he knows exactly. I'm like, yes, I know exactly. I'm like, we don't need to do this. Like, we're not going to go finding spots
I'm not a dartboard.
Exactly. So, yeah, and so then, have the conversation of, this is going to be your last treatment. This is what you're going to do. And then, you're going to get one more set of scans just to kind of make sure. And then we're going to meet, like we're going to meet on a Wednesday morning. And then like we go to Donnybrook and we go wrestle in Iowa. So here I am. I'm like can I do it this day? I'm like, can I go in the morning? What time can I go? Because I got to leave at noon, 1 o'clock, so I can go to Iowa and we can go wrestle.
This sums up your character, man.
So, but yeah, it's just. I mean,
so you ring the bell.
Rang the bell. That was probably
that video.
That was and everything was good, and then like I start reading what it said, and you kind of think of like all the people that got to do it that you don't even know, like they got to do it. And it's like some of these, some get to and some don't.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the perspective. And it was like, oh, like shit, that was hard. Like, it was just like, what is going on that, I'm like, I never thought just reading 6 lines on a plaque, that had that was going to be that hard. And it wasn't that it was hard. It was just like, it's, hopefully coming to an end and you don't have to, and that was one thing, the doctor said, like, there's a 65 to 70% chance that you'll never have cancer again. And I'm like, so that's perfect. And
those
like,
are good odds.
Yeah, I'll take that. And he's like, it keeps getting better every day. And so, like, I'll take that. I'll take 60% every day.
So I got a question for you. I had 2 breast cancer survivors on here during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I never really thought. It's tough to fight cancer, right? Going through but when you're in battle, there's an intrinsic warrior mode that we are pre-wired with.
Right.
We're wired we're built to survive,
yes.
Right? So when you're in the fight, well, then you kind of get out of the fight, and so, but the reality is, man, you're never really out of it, for now. So she was talking about there are groups for survivorship counseling. And I thought, oh my gosh, I never really thought about
I would have never known. Yeah. Until you said that, I'd never
how
knew.
heavy it must be for a person that maybe has worry. Typically they have to worry for the cancer fight's a year.
Yeah.
And then you got the rest of the 40 years of your life.
Right. Yeah, you hope. Yeah,
every day
exactly.
it's going to come back, every bump, everything, every feel, and she's like, oh yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. It gave me just a deeper compassion for people who've not only fought cancer, but man, so I applaud you that you have this positive outlook, and that hopefully that's not something that plagues you.
No. You've asked like, what gets you like through, and like I brought like one thing and we talked about whenever my wife miscarried, and that was 14 years ago. And I got an email from a friend of mine from high school, and like we played football together, and that was it. And he was like, when we were younger, we did not do some of the best things. I mean, we got in some trouble, and but like he was one of my faith guys. Like that's, and then, like and that was one of the people that whenever we texted, like, and told him like, this is what's going on. And like, there were 3 friends, and we, one lives in, North Dakota, 2 are still in Farmington, and, we don't get to see each other, but like we can pick up a phone, we can call anybody, and we can pick up right where we left off.
Yeah.
And I just sent out like a blanket email, like to certain people, and, cause at that point, like texting wasn't as big, I mean, it was, but at the same time it wasn't. It was hard to put in a text like about Megan and like what we're going through right now. And like in the email, he wrote down, like he typed out Romans 8:28. And so here I am sitting there and I have this yellow trucking paper, like just sitting there. And so I wrote on it and I just wrote, and we know that all things, in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called to his purpose. Yeah. And wrote down the verse and, taped it, stuck it, just so it's always there. And so, and it's made God knows how many moves, and it's in every class, like it's been in every classroom along the way. And it's like, you've always got that. And that's just kind of what, like, for me personally, that's what I've like hung my hat on, like that I'm going to continue to do everything that's good. And we're just, it's God's going to lead me to my path. And, I may not know why at the time, but we're just going to we're going to go with that. And, like I went to my classroom and we knew we were meeting today. And so I went and grabbed it cause I forgot it yesterday. And, whenever I left the building, so I went back up and I pulled it off the wall, and I'm like in the minute, I'm going back through the building and I'm looking at the piece of paper, and I look at it and I think about it, like it's me, it's everybody. Like it's got holes, it's crinkled, it's got tears in it. It's awesome. The yellow is not, it's usually yellow trucking is usually orange, and like it's yellow, like it truly is, it's faded and everything else. And so like, just that's your life. Yeah. And so if you can just have something, to hang your hat on, and, for the past 14, 15 years, I've hung my hat on a piece of paper that's been written on, that a friend gave me, that I'll always, like, I'll never, you lose some things or you throw some things away, and like it's made its move from Rolla to Kansas City,
same piece of paper.
Same piece of paper. And it's never like, it's always going to be there. And it's just like, just to, you got to know where you came from and what you've kind of your trials and what your fights and you've been through. And so that's just one of those things that, like, it's always going to be your reminder. And so that maybe like, and not to discount like what I went through, but it's like, other people have went through some of the same crap or maybe even worse. And so just making sure that like you just keep it in perspective, that it's going to be okay. And you've just got to hope that if you can put everything kind of in the Lord's hands, it's going to be, you're going to win. And, like, that's one of the things that I put like on my post, and was I wore, and that morning, I had shirts made that said they were NWO, and it said on the back, it said Victory Blue, because we'd gotten in trouble year before. We were at the state tournament, and we were kind of in some trouble with the state. And like on your card for your state finals, you put like what your color of your singlet is and what like your trim was. And I was always the one that did everything for, like, that was one of the things that I just told Dustin, like, I'm going to go get this. And I filled it out, and I said, can I put Victory Blue for the color of the singlet? And he's like, he goes, yeah, that's fine. And so, and he got in some trouble for, like, with that, but it was like, so we walked in and, like with NWO and like fake wrestling or, WWE and all that stuff. And it was just like, they were the bad boys and they were the ones that came to take over. So like, I was like, we're going to come in and we're going to take over. And that year, like, we won it. And, like I feel like every district Saturday, that I will always have that under I will always wear a pullover, and that will always be the shirt that's underneath that Saturday district pullover. Because, and that's what, my wife said. She looks at me and she goes, are you wearing that for a reason? I go, yep, we don't lose in this shirt. Yeah. And so, and that's just kind of the mentality. And it's one of those that, you keep it, because that's kind of the goal. You want to try to, like, if you can, it may be cliche, but like, you want to win the day, but like, you want to keep trying to win in life however you can. Yeah. And so, like, I think through your faith and through the people that you put yourself around, like, that's how you win for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. That's great. Well, you answered my last question. I always leave people with some good message you want to leave with, but that's great, man. That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Super cool stuff. All right. We're going to end on a fun note. You
All
ready?
right. Sounds good.
All right. What is the weirdest thing you have in your refrigerator right now?
Oh man. That is a great question. There may still be, we do a garden, and really it's just, we like around our house, like, but when we bought it, it was like mulch and everything else. And it's like, instead of planting all the flowers and things like that the deer come and eat and everything, like we put up fencing around the majority of it. And we do, like pickles.
Mm-hmm.
We still have like the juice for the pickles, like, so we can pickle them, and we're done doing that. And that's been at least a good month, if not a month and a half, since the last set of like pickles that we've done.
That's why questions like this are always good. It makes you think, like, we still got that.
It's sitting in there, and there's, it's just like, oh man, do we need to get rid of it? We probably need to get rid of that. And it's
maybe.
like, yeah, I don't
the minute
know.
you do, you're going to need it, right?
Exactly.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, probably man, that's a good question. Cause like, there's a place we go, if we go do a Rockers football game on a Friday, they always have karaoke and we never sing. It would probably be, just be like, Don't Stop Believing.
There you go. That's great.
Like it's an easy one. Yeah. Like everybody knows.
Everybody sings it with you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like you're just the only one up there.
I'm always about that. Yeah. I think I did one of those Bon Jovi songs or something when we were down in Cancun last year. Yeah, it was great. What's the last thing you binged on TV?
Currently as far as fully getting through it, Breaking Bad.
Okay.
But to like one of the things, and two guys that I teach with, that teach math with, they got me, they're like, "You've never seen Breaking Bad?" I'm like, "No." Like,
you know what? I haven't either. I tried and I just can't get into it.
And so I started in COVID, like, and like it took a while. And like, there was some, like, whenever I got it, like there was times I'm just staying up at night and I'm just watching, like trying to catch up and everything. And then I started Better Call Saul. They're like, "Yo, you got to do Saul." I'm like,
that was
okay.
Good.
And so like, that was one of the things that like treatment took, like usually I'd get there about 2. By the time just, they would do labs and everything and all the stuff, it was usually about 2 hours. So I could usually get at least 2 in.
Yeah.
So here I am sitting on my phone and there's like, yes, and one of my buddies, he's like, "Have you gotten to here yet?" I go, "No." I'm like, I have a job.
Yeah, bro,
I have other things that I got to do. I go, "But here's the deal." I go, "I'm going to this place and I'm going to be in a hotel by myself and I'm going to be in this." I said, "So I can catch up." So and try to catch up, like with where I'm at. Like I'm on season 2, episode 5. And he's like, "You need to watch this one." I'm like, I'll get there.
I love it.
Give me some time.
My wife, she hates when I do these episodes because she when I go to sleep, because I'll fall asleep, right? And and she'll sit up and be stuck watching it, and she'll be like, "I can't go past the next episode because you're sleeping." She gets mad. All right, so next, if you were back wrestling again, what would be your walkout song for the state title?
Oh my. Probably just knowing what like I know like about myself now. Big, like when I was growing up, I loved music, like I still love music. And I think like for me, it would be I feel like I'm a big Eric Church guy right now. Like the music, I like country music.
Mm-hmm.
It would either be Sinners Like Me or These Boots, and more thinking like boots, like just for the shoes. Like this is like, cause it's one of those, like you've been like all the places you've been in your wrestling shoes and like in your boots. And so I think that's just one of the things that kind of how I would look at it. Just, so one of those two probably.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
I was a big Superman guy, so probably like to fly.
I know. Dustin said the same thing.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah. Me too. That's all. Me too. I always say if I come back, I want to be an eagle.
Yeah.
Not a Philadelphia Eagle.
We do like Jason Kelsey in our house. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's hard not to
right,
like,
exactly.
Right? Coffee or tea? Did I ask you that one yet?
Nope. Coffee every day.
Okay, and then morning or night person?
Probably more, definitely morning. My wife is the night owl. I'm the early morning. Like I can get up. Like we had practice yesterday morning, and like we went at 6:30, and 5:30 alarm goes off. Get up, go shower, and she goes, I'm assuming you have practice this morning. She goes, oh, I'm like, I didn't tell you. Yeah. where she can, like, she's in the middle of like getting her degree for to be a school counselor, and so she can stay up. You know, like if I have a Friday night football game, and like if I'm not getting home, like we always go out and eat and just kind of hang out with the five of us. And you know, there's times that depending on where we're at in the city, I may not get home until midnight, and it's like, hey, I'm on my way home, and so she's usually just
studying or
just
whatever.
doing whatever. And she's like, and she can just do that. And then, you know, where I'm the complete opposite. Like I bet this week, you know, we're sitting there on the couch and watching, you know, the kids go to bed, and it's 9 o'clock, 9:30, or, you know, the kids go to bed about 9, it's 9:30, 10 o'clock. And here I'm just sacked out, you know, she's like, let's go to bed.
Yeah.
You know?
That's me, man. I'm like, once it gets past, like, especially now that it's getting dark early.
Yes, exactly.
I'm like narcoleptic. If I sit still for 1 second,
exactly.
I'm out. Well, man, this has been great. I'm super stoked to have you.
I'm glad I got to do this. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is great. Appreciate your authenticity. I mean, you're a good dude.
Appreciate it.
You're good. Now I understand why Dustin was so adamant about me getting you on here. He's like, great guy, best guy, story. Yeah. So all the above, man. I just think that I am inspired by your positivity, man. Thanks. I'm inspired by your positivity, one, but your humility also. And I just think that's a quality, especially in our wrestling world, man. It's a very ego-driven, you know, it's a very prideful sport. I mean, it's a selfish sport, first of all, because it's it's an individual sport. But so having that humility and team, and just you're bringing a lot of really good human qualities to that team and teaching those kids. So I'm proud to know that you're in the school system where my kids are at.
That's good.
So that's cool. And you know, I'm experiencing more and more and more. We got a lot of Jesus and liberty,
right?
Which is super cool. Students, teachers. I mean, it's everywhere. And I'm super proud to be part of this community, man. Glad
to have you.
Yeah, glad we met, man.
You bet.
All right, gonna do my little outro. Anything you wanted to leave?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you left it all on the table there, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. That's our end of another episode of the Stronger Leader Podcast. Thanks, Kellen, for coming on, man. We appreciate having you, Coach Laws.
Thanks, Tony. Yes, sir.
And remember, hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that bell so you get the notification when all the new episodes drop. Be good, be blessed, and be stronger. Stuff's fun.
Yes, sir.
All right, it's a wrap. Sweet.